trust me?
Yes. A whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew.
Welcome back to Inquiry. It's time for our final dock deck of the series, ending things off with Sapphire Steel. Today's deck features fantastic cards like Jasmine, Steady Strategist, and Aladdin, Research Assistant, to give us incredible ally synergy. Gaining card advantage with effective card draw, boosting our allies' strength, and having the ability to play powerful cards like Lawrence for free. If you like the idea of turn 5 Cogsworth and playing dock for free to refresh our hand, this deck's for you. So let's get into it. So as always, I like to start these videos by explaining the idea behind the deck list. As mentioned, this deck's all about allies and using our heroes like Jasmine and Aladdin to draw allies, play them for free, and give them some stat boosts. But how do we do this? Jasmine's Steady Strategist has the ability that whenever we quest with her, we look at the top 3 cards of our deck, reveal an ally character, and put the rest to the bottom of the deck. And with 25 cards in the deck being allies, this is quite likely. Within the range of 80.9% likelihood of finding an ally with each 3 cards looked at by Jasmine. This percentage of course changes after mulligans and cards being used, but is still very good odds on giving us an extra card drawn each turn when we quest with her. Now Aladdin is a little bit slower to reach his effectiveness in the deck, but if we can get him to stick on the board and quest on what's usually turn 5, while he's exerted, all our allies gain +1 strength. And when he quests, we can play an ally, 3 cost or less, for free. In situations where we have Jasmine and Aladdin out on the board at the same time, we can sequence things so Jasmine quests and we draw into an ally, then we quest with Aladdin and play that ally for free, and still have all of our ink to work with. But I'll go into some more detail with these cards later. For now, let's take a step back from how the deck operates and talk about the 1-drops. There are only 8 1-drops in this one, and it's 8 Jasmines. This is of course to make our turn 2 Steady Strategist as likely as we can, but also these cards have the bonus of actually having good abilities as well as being shift targets. However, neither of these abilities have use on turn 1, but can be used later in the game to either heal 1 damage from a chosen character of ours, or my preferred ability of the two, give a character of ours resist 1 until the start of our next turn. Moving quickly onto some 2-drops, starting with Bernard, who we only have 2 copies of in this list. Bernard has some added ally synergy, but is uninkable and ultimately a worse version of Doc in the deck. Bernard's ability allows us to draw an extra card if we have an ally in play, so is unfortunately useless on turn 2 when following a Jasmine, and only useful later in the game once our allies are down. For this reason, 2 copies are perfect in my opinion, as Bernard really can be a great top deck later in the game. Okay, now for our more preferred turn 2 plays, and our Mr. duo in Mr. Smee and Mr. Arrow. Both excellent first mates on their respective ships, and excellent options for us in this deck. They of course both quest for 2, applying some lore pressure, but most importantly are both allies. This means we can draw into them with Jasmine, and be played for free, and have their strength boosted by Aladdin. Mr. Arrow is just a 3-off, but could easily be moved up to 4 if we were to cut out Bernard for example. Which might be a fair choice given the uninkable count for the deck is already quite high. Unfortunately, there's no captains in the deck to stop Mr. Smee from taking damage, but don't forget that Jasmine can give him resist to squeeze out another turn with him and gain an extra 2 lore. Next up, let's talk about the 3-drops. Often turn 3 we are following up a Jasmine shift, so it's an important turn for the deck. Lawrence is usually the preferred choice, however in certain matchups Pete is very important in order to protect Jasmine. Or if there's evasive threats on the board, Genie is an excellent option. Unfortunately Pete's not an ally, but Lawrence and Genie can both be played for free with Aladdin, and if Genie gets the +1 strength, he can then take out those pesky opposing Genie Wish Fulfilleds very cleanly. And Lawrence is an absolute powerhouse, having 4 strength when he has no damage on him, and questing for 2. A different 3-cost character I'd like to squeeze into the deck but didn't have room for is Shifu, who quests for free when he has no damage, so he can be a really nice aggro tool. But I decided to prioritise having Genie in there to offer some evasive removal. Right, so now we're on to Jasmine, who I've already spoken about, but just wanted to add that with her being the main draw engine in the deck, it needs to be stressed just how important it is to keep this card on the board. Opponents will do their best to remove this card, and it's our job to make it as difficult as possible so we can continue drawing extra cards. So the best way to protect Jasmine is on turn 4, playing a Pluto. So something that has to be weighed up when piloting the deck is to either go for the greedy play of Aladdin on 4, or to focus more on drawing as much as possible from Jasmine and protecting her with Pluto. If you can afford to risk playing Aladdin followed by Pluto on 5, then definitely do so, as then we can combo Pluto with a free ally character with Lawrence, Smee, or maybe a Doc. Another really strong option for us on 5-ink is Cogsworth, Grandfather Clock. This card was one of the cards I recently predicted to get a reprint for Fabled, and I'm really hoping that happens. I love this card, and it works perfectly in this deck. If you don't know Cogsworth, he gives all of our characters in play resist 1, and he has ward, and he quests for 2. If we can find a board state with Cogsworth giving the cards resist, and Aladdin giving our allies strength, the challenges end up being massively in our favour and can really swing games. And of course, Cogsworth is an ally, so could be drawn into using Jasmine. Now, if you're a returning viewer to the channel, you probably know just how much I love the card Desperate Plan, so are probably wondering why it's not in the list. And the main reason for that is the next card we're going to talk about, which is Jasmine, Inspired Researcher. With her having continuous art with Aladdin, it just felt right including her in the deck, and she fills the role of Desperate Plan perfectly, as whenever she quests, if we have no cards in our hand, we draw a card for each ally we have in play. From my playtesting, the most I've managed to draw with her is only 3, but this could easily be more. So this card can be really strong to basically do exactly what Doc does for us in refreshing our hand and giving us more gas to play our 2 questers and close out games. Our final character card is Miss Bianca. If you don't know Miss Bianca, she has the ability that if we have an ally in play, which we probably do, she costs 2 ink less to play, so can be a really powerful body to play for only 4 ink. However, we already have lots of strong turn 4 options, so I'm not completely sold on Miss Bianca in the deck. It might be better to cut her for even more ally options at the other end of the list, like for example another evasive ally in Happy, or increasing the counts of Mr. Arrow and Genie. So she's definitely one to look at for flex options. If you do try something else, I'd love to hear what cards you use in the comments, or maybe you find Miss Bianca great. Alright, finally for the deck we have some removal options in Fire the Cannons, Baboom, and the everlasting in the series, Strength of Raging Fire. All great removal options and pretty self-explanatory at this point. So what we'll do is move on to a couple of mulligans so I can show you what we're going to look for in terms of curve and opening hands. Okay, so this is our first 7 cards, and this is actually an incredibly strong open. We have almost everything we need. We have our Jasmine shift line for turn 2, but don't have a clear turn 3 play, so we can look for that in our mulligan. A reminder for these mulligans, we're pretending we're on the play against an unknown opponent. For a lot of matchups, it would probably be necessary to keep Fire the Cannons here, but we're just focusing on getting our perfect curve if possible with these ones. So for this first one, I'm going to put back everything apart from the Jasmines and hope to get a nice free drop and maybe a Pluto or Aladdin. Alright, not terrible, no free drop, but that's not the end of the world as we did get another Smee. What I would do here is ink Cogsworth, play the Jasmine that removes damage, and save the one that gives resist in case we can play her later. Obviously turn 2, shift Jasmine and quest, hopefully drawing into a free drop, but if we don't, we can ink whatever we draw, and turn 3 play Smee and the resist Jasmine, then we can look to play Aladdin and start pulling off some nice combos and getting loads of strong allies on the board. So that was a really good opener, let's have another go and see if we can do it again. Perfect, look at that, another Jasmine shift in the opening 7. So for this one again, I'm going to put everything back in search for a nice turn 3 play, as even though we have the Genie, I'd much rather look for a Lawrence in a game that I don't know the matchup. If you know you're playing a Diablo deck for example though, you'd definitely keep Genie in this situation. So let's put back 5 again and see what we get. Wow, very nice. This is pretty much perfect for us as we have some nice inkable options and we have a turn 3 Pete into turn 4, singing Strength with Pete and maybe even playing a second Jasmine. Of course there'll be games in which we don't manage to find these types of lines of play and games you miss the Jasmine shift. But in those scenarios it's best to just play on curve cards like Smee, Lawrence, Pluto and be patient and wait for those powerful Jasmine and Aladdin plays later in the match. Okay, so hopefully that was some help to you. If you have any questions on the mulligans in certain matchups, I'm more than happy to try and lend some help where I can, so feel free to ask your questions in the comments. So that brings us to the end of the deck and the end of the Doc Deck series. Now the series is over, I'll be moving on to some other lists like a really cool burn deck coming soon, featuring some very spicy cards. So if that interests you, go ahead and subscribe to the Inquiry channel to not miss out. As always, thanks so much for watching, I'll be back soon with another video, so I'll see you then.